Hello everybody on YouTube, it's Rawze from Rawze.com here. I'm making a video on how to survive brake week. Now, actually, got a friend of mine's truck here. It's a ProStar. What is it year? 2010, 2009 ProStar. Anyway, he said he can't stop too good. Well, I think I found out why. Here's his old brake shoes and here's a brand new one. If you want to zoom in here, you can see a new brake shoe, how thick it is. You can see an old brake shoe on how thin it is. And he was asking me, well, how thin can they get before you actually get a violation? Well, this one's borderline. Actually, it's in violation, but here's a 1/4 inch Allen wrench, you know, from my Allen wrench set. You can have up to a 1/4 inch, which will be, you know, the flat, you know, from flat surfaces there. It can be that thick. So you just, you know, I just use a 1/4 inch Allen wrench to hold it up against it. And if you zoom in right there, you can see that from here to the inside of the brake, this is the brake liner, and that's metal. It's right at a 1/4 inch, okay? But over here, oops, it's not a 1/4 inch anymore. So it's definitely in violation. Definitely bad brakes. This came off his other side. All of his back brakes need to be replaced. For people that don't know, if they want to look at their brakes, you know, on their truck, I'll show you this good one. There's always, almost always in all these brakes, brake pads, there's a lip right here. Okay? There's a lip that goes around here. And you'll see, even brand new, that for these back brakes, they taper off. So it's just kind of normal to see them a little thinner here than here. But this line right here is the replacement line. In other words, when you've worn your brakes down where you get to this second line, that's when you replace them. And that's when you know without having to. But I would still measure it, you know, with a little scale or 1/4 inch Allen wrench. I always do 1/4 inch Allen wrench. You can see that they give you a little bit on it, but it's starting to rain on us. Wow, good. Get to do it in the rain. But
I got laundry hanging out.
Yeah. So we're gonna take his other side and we're gonna put these new brake pads on. Let me show you the back of his truck. You come over here, we can see this this drum here. We cleaned it up and we put a new brake pad on there. We already got the new one installed on this one. So if you want to look in here, you can see that. Get a good inspection. You can see the little groove right there. You can see it's nice thick brake pad on there now. And this side over here we haven't touched yet. Take a look in there and look at that brake pad.
Yep.
That one's less than a 1/4 inch. Yep, not even a 1/4 inch thick. And he's also having a little trouble stopping at this point because they're so thin. So we're going to take it all apart, put new brake pads on. I'm sure 1,000 mechanics on the planet will watch the YouTube video and make fun of me because I'm not a mechanic. I'm just a driver. I take it apart, do it myself. You know, it's not hard to do. Just got to make sure you follow the guidelines. Anyways, let's take these apart. I'm gonna have to take these screws off, one of these screws off, because he has crossfires. And what crossfires do is they share the air from one tire to the other to keep the wear even and the pressure even. Now you can see his tires look pretty good. Probably got about 200,000 on them, 210, something like that. Yeah. So I mean, it does help a lot. Helps with the wear, but you know, that's another subject. Anyways, we'll take the crossfire off, and then we'll take the lugs off. And like I say, I use a breaker bar, and I use a long pipe because I don't use the air tools. And then I use my trusty torque wrench, which is getting rained on. I'll wipe it off to put it back together with, so I know I'm properly torqued. Do that. These bolts are supposed to be torqued, I think, depending on what hub you got, 180 to like 220. I always torque them to 215 on my truck. These little inner axle bolts. Uh-oh, power. I need power. Cut. Now, grab a 1/2-inch wrench. Little guy right here. Shouldn't be much more than finger tight. A lot more than finger tight, and it's gonna break. So take that guy off. There it goes. Comes right off. There, see?
Okay.
So now we gotta take the wheel off. Fun. Get the wheel off, you need a 33mm lug socket, 6-point. You can get that at like Northern Tool or one of them places. 3/4-inch drive. That's not strong enough to do it. It's my little electric ratchet, so I'll have to do it by hand. And those are supposed to be about 450 foot-pounds of torque when you do the lugs. This one's supposed, this lug here is supposed to be 220, but the big ones are 450, so you're not going to get that with a little ratchet. You know, you break down, you lose a steer tire or something, you don't get a nail in it, you have to drive 100 miles across Montana somewhere. I'm not going to call a towing service. I'm going to take this tire off, put it in the front, take the front tire off, put it in the back, limp it over there, save myself $500 worth of towing bill, and whatever they want to rape you for a new tire.
Which you're not going to replace anyway.
And then you change it as soon as you get somewhere you can change it. Instead of being at the mercy of those breakdown road crew guys. Oh.
Wrong.
Alright, last stud. Got the studs out. Now I'm going to jack it up. Come on around here, I'll show you what I do. Jack it up. I got one of these little 12-ton bottle jacks and a piece of wood. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack this little thing up. I'm going to go right behind it. Take it right up off the ground. And you can see that? These little brake chambers here, these small ones, these guys, those are just, they call service brakes. When you press your brake pedal, it applies the brakes to each tire. My truck don't have parking brakes all the way around on the rear axles. It only has parking brake on this axle, on the front axle. I guess they were too cheap to put them all the way around, huh? But here's a parking brake on this axle here. You can see that the, I don't know if you want to come around this way. You can see that the brake chamber is much bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, and it also has 2 air lines going into it. Screwdriver. This hose is like this, connected, and you can push in right here on this little ring, that outer ring. You can push in real hard on it. Sometimes it gets stubborn, and then pull the hose out. And I just bought a little bit of this tubing, and I made a little adapter so I can take my little air compressor, you know, the electric one that plugs in the wall, a little crappy one from Home Depot, and I got an adapter that can slide that piece of tubing in there and put 100 pounds of pressure on it, and it releases the parking brake, because you don't want the brakes up against the drums when you're trying to take the drums off, and you know, the brakes and everything. You want them to be released as much as possible. So if you have parking brakes, just put you some air on that line right there and it'll release. Now whatever you do, make sure you chock the wheels on the truck really well, like 2 or 3 sets of chocks, not just one, because it's not going to hold it in place unless you have, like, especially like mine where I only have one axle, but it has parking brakes on it. So that's what I do to get it loose, and I make sure my truck's in neutral so I can spin the tires like that. You know, I can move them around, get them off the rim. That's what I do. I don't fight it, I just take my time.
Okay.
Got it? Tire off. Alright, I got this tires off, and now I'm looking at the drum. And the drum tends to rust up in here, especially if it's been on for a long time like this one. So, you know, my brakes are shot anyway. I'm going to replace the pads, it ain't going to hurt nothing. Even if the pads were good, usually you can do this. I get a real hammer. I don't use one of them little tink-tock hammers like a carpenter uses. And I tell people, hey, it won't come off, it won't come off. Ring the bell. Knock the rust out of it, right? There she goes. We'll get all that rust off of there. Chip it away. And this one's caught. I don't know if you want to see this. Go ahead.
Rolling?
Alright, I got the drum knocked loose. I went ahead and knocked off all that crap. Loose rust that was on it. And the brakes are dragging because it has a lip on here that catches the brakes. Because of wear, there's like a lip. Because it's worn down. So I'm going to have to back the brakes off to get this off here because it's catching on the brake pads now. So this little screw right here will back the brakes off. On this truck, on my truck, there's no lock. I can just turn it one way and it's real nice and easy, and it actually tightens the brakes. And it doesn't want to turn the other way easily, but you'll hear it go, you know, and that'll back the brakes off against the little spring in there. You know, it keeps it only going one direction for the auto adjust, for the slack adjusters. But this one here, his truck is a little older. He's got one of these. It's got a lock where you can't turn that but one direction, which means it only makes the brakes tighter, and I need to loosen them. So he's got a little thing here, down here. This little thing is a release, so you can turn it the other way. You just get a flathead screwdriver, you put it on here like this, and you pull it out like that, and it's got a little spring on it. You got that? And then you get in here with your ratchet, and you back them right off. See? Works like a dream. That loosens them up. If you look close here, you'll see that it's actually turning it. Let me get it unlocked again there. You can see it's turning real slow there.
Oh yeah.
So, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and back the brakes off all the way. If it starts getting tight, it's real loose right now. If it starts getting tight on you, just stop.
Okay.
Because that's probably all the way back. So we're just going to go like this. Yep, it's starting to get a little snug there, so stop. We should be able to take the drum right off.
Okay.
Hang on. You recording?
Uh-huh.
Alright, show how you're doing. So you do it like that, huh?
Yeah, it's easy for me.
It's easy like that, huh?
Yeah, see, I'm
So you're a little guy.
I'm dropping it in. See, I'm
Go
dropping
all the way up on, look at it, went all the way up on there too.
Yeah,
Wow,
I'm
nice.
dropping it in, I'm dropping it down.
Very easy. Cool. Alright, I got the drum off. You can see down here. Got the drum off. And this is the S-cam. And you can see that the rollers for the brakes are still sitting way up here on the S-cam. They should be down in here to get the brakes apart, or to take them off. So I need to turn this thing a little bit more and get those brakes compressed a little bit more. You can see how spread out they are. Go ahead and try to bore everyone to death, huh? Kind of a boring job doing brakes, you know. A lot of people just don't know, you know, never seen it. Some people see it all the time, you know. The mechanic will probably be laughing their ass off at me. Look at that dumbass. Alright. Now we got it backed off all the way. We gotta get this one spring off. You get that one spring off, and then the brakes will just kind of do this, come off.
Okay.
So, but I made me a special screwdriver for those springs because I got tired of trying to get them off. Maybe you can see that.
Yeah.
The end of that thing. I just took a side grinder with a cut-off wheel. Just made my little special spring tool.
Cool.
Yeah, hack the planet. The spring is actually hooked like this, and you just take this and it's hooked on around a bar. Just take this and lift it off the bar. I'm gonna do that one, and then I do the top one. Over there. Alright, so I'm going to get my big screwdriver in there, in that little area right there against that S-cam where I took that roller out. I'm going to get on the back side of that spring, just like that. And I'm going to take it off, but I need to, I don't know if you can see that with a flashlight in there. Did you see that? Did you get that?
I saw it before, yes.
Okay. I'm going to put the flashlight down so I can hold this spring, or this brake shoe up like this a little bit. I push down on that thing, get it unlocked, just like that. Not hard to do. Just takes a little bit, you know, but not bad. Now the brake shoe's loose. That brake shoe's loose. I just simply take it and flip it over. Comes right off. How about that?
Awesome.
Yep. Now, yeah, you can see how dirty and dusty it is. Let me point out a couple things here. Since I'm not a mechanic and I'm not in a hurry and it's my truck, or his anyway, there's usually a little wheel here. On the back ones there was, with a little sensor. That little wheel's got little slots. This one don't have it because it's a front axle and it don't have the ABS. ABS wheel, or ABS is back there. I should have filmed that one. Make sure that thing is clean. It's not full of crud. Otherwise you get ABS alarms. You get intermittent ABS alarms, you know, like you're rolling down the road and all of a sudden ABS comes on. That might be what it is, it's just too dirty. And I like to take and hit this with my pressure washer, clean it all up, you know, real good and nice, and give it, you know, some attention. And I don't know if you want to see this. You need to take these out and put new ones in after you get your brake shoes off. And before you put your new brake pads on, because I'm not some guy just getting paid, you know, just to change the brakes out. You know, it's my truck. I care about it. Or his truck in this case.
But you still care about it.
I still care about it, yeah. If somebody comes over here, I care about what I do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, this hub right here, okay, we've got it unlocked because you know, this one has the parking brake. So what we did, I got my little adapter here, and I put it on there with my little compressor. I've got bigger compressors, but that's all you really need to release the brakes is this little tiny thing. I put this before I, because that one has the parking brake. Before I started messing with it, the first thing I did was put air on that circuit right there, like I said before. So, and it's charged up. It's got air pressure on it. That releases the parking brake section of the parking brake, so we can take all this off. But with that released and the brakes off of it, now I can turn this freely. You feel for grinding in the gearbox, you know, things like that, and make sure it's smooth. You can check your backlash on your drive line a little bit there. But what's really important is your hub bearings and your hub, and you can push in and pull out on it to see if it's got a tink tonk, you know. I can't feel any of this one, but that doesn't mean it's you know, if you can feel it, usually it's probably too much. I can't feel any on that one, but if you do feel a little bit of it, what I recommend instead of panicking is to get a dial indicator on the back of this, you know, between here and here, and then push and pull on it to see how much on a dial indicator there is.
Rolling?
Alright, now I got it cleaned up a little bit. Also check around here. That's where your hub seal is. Make sure it's not covered in oil. You get a hub seal leak. That usually will get covered in oil there. The base here maybe. And you got a magnetic base. Sticks to magnet metal. And a little indicator with a needle, if you want to show that. A little indicator with a needle. It tells you how far something moves in thousandths of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
And over here, stick my magnet on, loosen my little arm here. Stick it on here. I don't know if you want to jump down and come around here. Cut. Alright, so I got my magnetic base on there. I got my needle against the back of the hub here, close to it. And this is on the fixed point. So I'm going to dial it so that I can get a reading. There we go. Zero it out. Pull on it.
Okay.
And then I push on it. I can see I've got about 2 thousandths. Okay. Oh, actually 1 thousandths. Okay. About 1 thousandths. Yeah, that's half thousandths. Dial indicator, so it's about 1 thousandths of an inch. Now, how much should I get? Well, if you have older Eaton Dana rear ends, the older ones, they say anywhere from 2 to 4 thousandths. About 6 thousandths is the max. 8 is when you start adjusting the bearing again. I guess if it's been on there a long time. That's what I've been told. They say about 0.004 or 4 thousandths of an inch on the older ones, but these Pro Stars these are Eaton Dana rear ends, but they're the newer ones, and they're not as good a quality as the older ones were. That's just my opinion. I don't know if it's fact, but I did talk to the people that make them in China. These are actually made in China for Eaton Danas, from what I understand, because I got a hold of the company in China themselves. And the guy in China told me that the metal is not as thick, and it's not as it's a little more pliable, the rear axles, than they used to be, and so they've got a little bit more flex in them when you're loaded to their maximum weight. So he said what you should do on these hubs, instead of letting them go to 4 or 5 or 6 thousandths of an inch backlash, to keep tire wear down to a minimum, because they do have more flex than the old ones used to only make it 1 to 2 thousandths of an inch. So he's at 1 thousandths right now. It's beautiful. It looks good. It turns freely. If it was hard to turn and it had no play, it would obviously be too tight. It would have preload, which means there's no give to it at all. So that one looks really good. If you have 4 or 5 thousandths of an inch backlash in these newer style axles, this is what it ends up looking like after 250 or 200,000 miles plus. As you get this, I don't know if you can see that with your camera, kind of get in low on it like this. After a couple 100,000 miles, you're going to get a little bit of step in their tire like this. Okay, it's normal even with these rear ends. It's sort of normal after 200,000 miles or so to get a little bit of this. These tires have more than 210,000 miles on them, so that's actually not too bad. It's quite normal. If it gets really bad, a severe step, then you may have too much in it. This axle here is a little tighter. It's got less in it, but you can still see a tiny bit, and it's walk. You got a little bit of walk in it. A little bit of waviness in this one, but 200,000 miles, if you start to see that, it's quite normal. Especially with these newer axles. At 400,000 miles, it shouldn't be much worse. It should wear with the tire, with the pattern. If it's really bad, or if you start seeing it at 100,000 miles or 80,000 miles or something like that, you got a problem. So that's how you kind of gauge it. If just by looking at the tire wear, so whether or not you need to take it apart and check the backlash in it. This one had about 3 thousandths backlash. So you can see that this one's got more than the other ones. These over here, the tire that came off of this one, I don't know if you want to come over here and look at these real quick. The tires that came off of this one, that axle that only had 1 thousandths, they look beautiful. There's really no step wear in them yet. So you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4 thousandths of an inch is the difference between not being able to feel anything after 200,000 miles, or having a step. So that's why you use a dial indicator. 4 thousandths of an inch, you can't feel that. Not with your hands. You're not going to feel it with your hands. You need a dial indicator. So I care about my tires, I care about my truck, and I care about what I do. So I check this stuff. I don't play around. You know, mechanics will tell you, oh, it's, you know, no big deal. Well, if it's a fleet truck and it's not your truck and you don't care about the tires, I guess that's fine. But you know, I'm not here to play. I'm out here to make money. So I guess we'll start putting it back together, and I'll video that.